Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
It's an attempt to fundamentally change the tax math in Detroit, but can it get the green light in Lansing? Fed up for years with paying exorbitant property taxes, Detroit homeowners are on the cusp of getting a big break. Good to have you with us tonight at 11. I'm Devin Skillian.
I'm Kimberly Gill. That's if the legislature and the city council give it the okay. As Mara McDonald shows us downtown tonight, ultimately Detroit voters would have the final say.
You know, the first hurdle that needs to be cleared here is the legislature. That could come in a matter of days. All of that said, they have tried to push this through in weeks prior. It has not made it. Will it this time? Mayor Duggan is calling this the land value tax, and what it would do is flip the script on tax bills in the city. Those who own things like parking lots, scrapyards, abandoned buildings, well, they'd see their tax bills doubled, while homeowners and business owners would see a $14 million reduction.
We realized we had to let people see it for themselves so they can have total transparency about how it would work and what your taxes would be.
For the average Detroit homeowner, it would be a 17% reduction in their bill. And to run your own numbers, the city has a tax calculator up on its website. Put your address in and see what it would do for you. The whole idea is to give good citizens a break and make land speculators pay up. Detroiters pay some of the highest taxes in Michigan and have been begging for relief for years.
What we know is that the existing system hasn't worked well, and this has all the incentives in the right places.
So let's say that this clears the legislative hurdle. What is next? Well, the Detroit City Council would have to vote to put it on the November 2024 ballot. City of Detroit residents would then vote on it. If it makes it, that means that the first tax bill that city residents would see with any relief, first quarter of 2025. We're downtown. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Continue to follow this one closely. Mara, thank you so much. And we've put a link to the online estimator on our website. Just go to clickondetroit.com.
All I do is turn to the left for 2 seconds and to get my mail, get ready, and I heard a noise. And next thing I know, I looked up and there was a gun. It was touching my head.
That's Southfield letter carrier Matt McBee recounting the day he was robbed at gunpoint while on his mail route. And it's one of the reasons why dozens of postal workers here in Detroit and across the country are rallying to raise awareness about the dangers they face every day. Pamela Osborne live with more on this. And Pam, this is really becoming a concerning trend, isn't it?
Devin, it certainly is. Since 2020, the rate of attacks between since 2020, the attacks that have happened, the violent attacks against these postal workers, as well as armed robberies, have increased significantly to the point where more than 2,000 of them have become victims. And that is a trauma that we learned about firsthand tonight.
I never think it happened to me, and I couldn't breathe when I think about it.
Trando is the latest letter carrier in our area to come face to face with armed robbers.
2 of them with a gun point at my stomach.
It happened to her 2 weeks ago in Northville.
I never think it happened in Northville, because to me, Northville is very sad.
I can still feel the gun touch my head. And then I turned around and saw an AK. And
Matt McBee tells us he thinks about that day every day.
I guess people don't really think what they do to us when they put us through this stuff. The trauma never goes away.
Their experiences are what drew dozens of fellow postal workers to the Fort Street Post Office in Detroit. These Enough is Enough rallies are happening all across the country.
There's a network of folks out there across the country that have found us to be a target for them.
More than 2,000 of them became victims while on their routes over the past 3 years.
14% of these crimes have had both an arrest and a prosecution. 14%.
Brian Renfro, president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, is calling for a tougher stance when it comes to finding and holding the people who commit these crimes responsible.
We just want to come to work, do our job, and go home in the same condition we got here.
And there's something more that postal workers are asking that all of us do. We are pretty aware of their schedule when they're going to be in our area delivering our mail. They ask that we keep an extra eye out. If we see people kind of hanging around in the neighborhood that we know don't live there, if they park their vehicles close to those mail trucks, just keep an extra eye out. And with it getting darker a little bit earlier, they say it doesn't help to keep a light on. All of these things, they say, could help them get home a little bit safer. Reporting live tonight in Detroit, I'm Pamela Osborne, Local 4.
It's horrendous what too many of them have been through. All right, Pamela.
A school janitor is charged with murder in the stabbing death of his co-worker. Prosecutors say 42-year-old Hamida Mohammed stabbed 59-year-old Stephen Gibson. The attack happened last week at Redford Union High School. School officials say no students or staff were at the school at the time. Investigators are working to determine a possible motive.
The Inkster man charged in the murder of a Detroit nurse is going to learn his sentence tomorrow morning. Prosecutors say he was leaving work as a nurse at DMC Hospital when Jameer Miller kidnapped and later killed her. Last month, Miller accepted a sentence agreement that dismisses 10 other charges he initially faced in exchange for his guilty plea to second-degree murder. Victims of domestic and sexual violence are getting new support with 2 bills just signed into law.
Governor Whitmer signed off on the new set of bipartisan bills this morning in Detroit. The bills will increase privacy protections and add blurring of Zoom calls when victims give impact statements. There will also be expansions to victim support services in domestic and sexual violence cases. The calls for a pause on ceasefire are echoing within the Gaza region tonight. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spent the weekend in Israel, convincing them to pause the fighting and allow for the release of more than 200 hostages held by Hamas. Israel's prime minister is rejecting calls for a pause, and thousands are calling for Israel to ceasefire, something the U.S. does not support. Tonight, the death count has surpassed 10,000.
There is a call for support to help striking workers on the picket lines at Detroit's 3 casinos and also the Blue Cross and Blue Shield picket, which continues. 3,700 casino workers have now gone past a full pay period, and now they are calling on the public to donate food and clothing. Some workers getting just $500 a week in strike pay, and that is not enough to make ends meet.
Like they were saying, you have to choose between extracurricular activities or daycare, groceries, or paying the rent. It's just difficult.
Donations can be made outside all 3 of Detroit's casinos. About 8 hours from now, Metro Detroiters will be heading to the polls to cast their vote in a number of races across our area.
The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are races throughout Metro Detroit, including the mayor's race in Warren, where voters will choose a successor to long-term Mayor Jim Fouts. There are also races in Livonia, Westland, Southfield, Royal Oak, and Roseville. We have a full list, and you can find your polling place on our website. Just go to clickondetroit.com.
All right, pretty mild day today, all in all, though this is the mildest one we're going to get this week.
That's right, and the weather should not be a hindrance for tomorrow if you head out to the polls. Kim?
No, it won't. It will be dry tomorrow as you head out to the polls. It will be pretty mild, too, for this time of year. We'll have temperatures, for the most part, in the 40s tomorrow. So tomorrow morning will be at about 47 degrees, no rain, nothing to worry about, and we'll top out in the low 50s tomorrow afternoon. Outside right now, it is mild, 58 degrees, so we might even hit our daytime high for tomorrow just after midnight. So even though temperatures in the afternoon tomorrow will be in the low 50s, I would say we'll be down to about 57 by midnight tonight, and that will go down as the high for tomorrow. 58 in Pontiac, also in Mount Clemens, 62 degrees downtown. We still have these southwesterly winds that is ushering in all that warm air. It's 18 degrees warmer right now than it was just 24 hours ago, 17 degrees warmer in Mount Clemens and 19 degrees warmer in Ann Arbor. But that's about to change. Tomorrow in the afternoon we'll be at 51 degrees, then we'll slip down to the upper 40s for Wednesday and bring in a chance for rain. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes.